Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I am going to be showing you how to crochet for absolute beginners. I'm going to show you how to do it left-handed and right-handed. Personally, I am left-handed, so I wanted to include the tutorial for those of you fellow lefties out there, but for the most part the tutorial is right-handed because I know a majority of people are right-handed. So this is going to be an absolute basics for crochet, and I am planning on doing a more advanced crochet tutorial as well, going over the more advanced stitches. So the basic stitches that I'm going to be covering in this video is how to do a slip knot or cast on, how to chain stitch or create a chain, how to do a single crochet, double crochet, and a slip stitch. So those 5 skills can help you create basic crochet projects. So if that sounds like something you want to learn how to do, let's just hop into the tutorial. So before we begin with the tutorial, I want to quickly go over the things that you're going to need and maybe common questions you might have if you are an absolute beginner, so I can cover all of that stuff before we actually get into the tutorial. So the first thing we're going to go over is the crochet hooks. So crochet hooks are just these metal hooks that are basically one long needle with a little hook at the end. You only need one of these. It's not like knitting where you use 2 and kind of go like this. Now they come in different materials. You can get them in plastic, metal, wood. That really can come down to your personal preference. I think for beginners, the metal ones are great because they have a lot of slip to them, so it will be easy for you to slip your loops off of the hook. For the tutorial purpose, I'm going to be using the largest hook, and that is a size K. So this is the one I'm going to be using for our tutorial so you can see everything. So there are some that are even bigger than this, and then there are some that get really small, like this one. This is an F5 or a 3.75 millimeter. This one is for really tiny stitches. I use it with thinner thread, and I'll use this when I'm making like socks or gloves or something where I want the stitches to be really close together. And then I just have a middle-sized hook, which is an I9 or a 5.50 millimeter. These are the 3 that I have. You can get a full set if you want. I'll link a couple of different options down below. The other thing that you're going to want to need to keep close by is a stitch marker. Now, they sell these in different like colors and plastic, and you can go out and buy those, but I just use safety pins because they're cheap, they're free. I already have them in my house and they work the same. And that is just so that you can mark the last stitch you worked in, and if you're working in a circle or if you're working back and forth, you can figure out which the last stitch is. And it's just helpful, especially for beginners. So the next thing you're going to need is some kind of thread material to crochet your items out of. I have a couple of different options here to kind of give you an idea of how really you can tailor this to what you're specifically making, and you really can use whatever you want. So for tutorial purposes, I'm going to be using this white cord. This is kind of like cotton macrame cord type of style. I'm using this because it's a little bit thicker and it'll be easy for you to see the stitches. Then we've got an actual skein of yarn. That's what this is called. And this is one that you can pick up at Michael's or your local craft store. So I want to just go over some of the symbols on the back. So on the back here, there are a bunch of symbols, as you can see. And it actually gives you recommendations for the size of crochet hook and the size of knitting needles to use with this particular skein of yarn. So this is super helpful if you are a complete beginner and you have no idea what size to use, but you can also use your best judgment and really use whatever size you want. But for this particular skein of yarn, it says to use an I9 or a 5.5 millimeter, which is this size right here. So that's just a little bit of helpful information on the yarn itself if you are looking for a guideline. It also will show you what you can make out of this size of yarn right here. So it says with 1 skein of yarn you can make a hat, with 2 you can make a scarf, and 5+ you can make a sweater. So also very helpful if you're looking for a full project, you're not sure how much yarn you're gonna need. So this is another brand of yarn, and again, if you look on the back, it has a similar symbol. It also tells you the sizes that they recommend for crocheting and knitting needles. You can also pay attention to what your yarn is made of. You will find the most common material is acrylic or acrylic blends. If you're specifically looking for something that's natural fibers, 100% cotton, 100% wool, things like that, your best bet is to look online, because a lot of these acrylic yarns is what you're gonna find in local craft shops. But online, there's a vast expanse of yarn available. I also want to mention that you can use things like jute cord. This I just picked up at the local craft store as well. With that out of the way, I'm going to move these yarns and we're going to focus on this specific yarn with our K crochet hook. So the first thing you're going to need to know how to do is create a slip knot. That is the absolute first thing you're going to do in every single project in order to start on your crochet hook. So it's basically just a knot that is adjustable. It's really simple. There are actually a couple of different ways to do this. So if you don't particularly like the way that I show you how to do it, you can look up how to do a slip knot and there will be a bunch of different ways. The way I do it is I take the end of my knot and I make a loop and I cross it over. Then I take my fingers, I take these 2 fingers, I put them inside the loop and pull the string through and pull it tight. And that is a slip knot. And the way you can tell if you did it right is if you pull the string and it adjusts. So I will do that one more time for you. So I'm going to take the end, create a loop, make sure that this end is kind of over the top. Then you want to go from underneath, pull the remaining string through while holding the end, and then pull the end tight. And that is a slip knot. Fairly basic. So then you're going to want to take your slip knot and hold it tight to your needle. Now I am left-handed, so I will hold my crochet hook in the left hand and work with the thread in my right hand. Crocheting is very simple because there is only one tool being used, so if you want to flip it, just hold it in your opposite hand and continue crocheting. So now I'm going to show you how to create a chain. This is going to be the next step in most projects you do. You have to create something to work with, and the length of your chain is going to depend on your project. Chain is abbreviated CH or chain stitch if you're following a pattern. So I'm going to, for this tutorial purpose, hold it in my right hand because most people are right-handed, and I will show you an example of how to do it left-handed as well. So the way I hold the crochet hook is I just hold it resting in my hand. I grip it with these 2 fingers, my pinky and my ring finger, and then I put my thumb right in this spot right here. It's a very flat spot, and I just put my thumb right there and I just turn the crochet hook like this. It's a very simple hold. You can hold it however you feel comfortable. So in order to create a chain, you're going to be working with your working yarn, not the little end. The little end we're done with working with. So take your working yarn, you want to go over So you're going from behind and over the top. Hold it with your pinky and your ring finger. Pinch the knot. Slide it over the loop and then slide it back. So you just created one chain. So I'm going to do it again. Hold it in your pinky and your ring finger to kind of secure the yarn. Go underneath and over the top. Hold the stitch that you just did. Pull it over the hook. Slide it back down. As you can see, you start to create these little stitches. I'm going to now switch so you can see what that would look like in my left hand. You won't be able to just switch hands during projects because now my work is done the wrong way, so I'm simply just going to pull the thread and undo those loops, do another slip knot, slip it on there, pull it tight, and then in my left hand I hold the crochet hook the same way. You want to go behind, over, pinch the knot, over the loop, behind, over, pinch the knot, over the loop. There you have it, right-handed crocheting, left-handed crocheting. It's pretty much the same, but like I said, for the purpose of this tutorial, I am just going to be doing it right-handed because the majority of people are right-handed. So I am going to chain maybe 10. So the way you do that is that was just 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's what a chain of 10 is going to look like. So now I'm going to show you how to work back through your work when you want to create another row. And crochet projects are basically just made up of rows like this. There are a few more advanced stitches, but I will be covering those in a separate video. This is just the basics for basic projects. So you're going to want to crochet into this chain. So there are a couple different ways to do this. Sometimes they will have you skip the first one. So this is your first chain. This little loop right here. So I'm going to zoom you in a little bit more so you can see this. So this loop right here, this little opening at the top, that's your first crochet to chain into. Sometimes they will tell you to skip the first one, so you would just skip this one and then move on to the next one. So for this, I'm just going to chain 1. I'm going to skip the one that I just did and I'm going to go into this second one. You're going to put your work over, pull it through, again, and pull it through both. Once more, I'm going to put it through this hole right here. You should have 2 strings on top. Pull it over, pull it through the first string, then you'll have 2 remaining strings. Pull it over again, and then go through both. So as you can see, it starts to get thicker because you're adding a separate row. So just continue crocheting until you get all the way through to the other side. It just becomes muscle memory. I think crochet is much easier than knitting. Knitting takes a little bit more practice and it's a little harder to maneuver. So I've gotten to the end here. You can see everything is a little bit thicker because I've just added another row. So then if we wanted to continue on and do another row across, I would just flip my work over. So it's facing this way. I'm just going to flip it over and start working into it backwards. So now if you flip your work over, you're gonna see that you have 2 loops on top. Now there are different patterns for every project. Some will require you to go through both. So that's going through both. You can see now I've got 3 strings on. Some will require you to go through the back, which is this one right here, just the back loop. Some will require you to go just in the front loop. So it really depends on what your pattern says, but just know that you have 3 options when it comes to these little V's, and each V is where you're going to want to insert your crochet hook. So you can either go through both, which it seems to be the most common for beginner projects, or you can go through the front or the back. So in order to do a double crochet, instead of just simply placing your hook where you want to crochet and then yarning over, you are going to yarn over before, and then you are going to place your crochet hook in. You're going to yarn over again and pull your crochet hook out. Then you are going to have 3 strands instead of 2. You're going to yarn over again. You're going to pull through the first 2. Then you're going to yarn over once more and pull through the last 2. So you're basically just doing double what you did before. And that is a double crochet, abbreviated in patterns as DC. So I will show you what that looks like once more. So you're going to yarn over, insert your crochet hook, yarn over, pull the yarn through, yarn over, pull it through the first 2. You should have 2 remaining. Yarn over, pull it through the last 2, and that is a double crochet, and it just creates a thicker crochet and it almost creates this little loop in between. So doing a double crochet is also good because it helps you work a little bit faster because it creates a thicker row. So now I'm going to teach you how to do a slip stitch, and a slip stitch is basically going into your yarn, yarning over, and then instead of yarning over again, you're just going to take the 2 strands and put one over the other. So you're going to go through one. That's a slip stitch. Usually you use slip stitches to finish off your projects, and I will just do that once more for you. So no yarning over, go into your stitch, yarn over once, go through, instead of yarning over again, pull through the second loop, and you've successfully created a slip stitch. I will do that a couple more times. Like I said, slip stitches are usually used to finish off your work. And a slip stitch will just create a regular chain like that, and at the end you will only have 1 loop, and usually you can trim your yarn, pull it all the way through, and you can thread it through the remaining yarn with a yarn needle. Those are the basic crochet stitches. The great thing about crochet is that it's a fairly quick process, and if you make a mistake, you can easily undo it and kind of figure out where you left off by leaving the loop. So say you made a mistake, say you skipped a stitch, which is very common for beginners. You can just pull through and you can see that these loops kind of remain, and you can pick up where you left off kind of before you made a mistake, and you just would slip your crochet hook in through that loop and continue going on. Because if you make a project, say your beginning project, your first project you ever make, and it doesn't really come out that great and you want to redo it or you want to reuse the yarn to do something else, you can really easily undo any project and start completely fresh with your yarn. It's really simple, it's really fun, it's really easy practice, and I suggest for practice just do a couple of rows of stitches, back and forth, practice single crochet and double crochet, and I will be coming out with a project just for that. That project is going to be coming very soon, and I'm going to show you how to apply all of the skills that I taught you today to make your first crochet project. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and had a lot of fun learning to crochet with me. I really enjoy it, and there are so many things that you can make. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss when I post a new video. I post new videos every single week. And with that, I am going to get going. Have fun crocheting. If you do end up making any projects or just want to show me your practice, you can follow me at This Little Farmhouse on Instagram, and you can tag me, and I would love to see your practice and your work. Feel free to share it with me. Just started up that Instagram account, so it's brand new for this channel to share all the things from this channel. And with that, I will see you guys in my next video.